So it's really my pleasure to introduce our special seminar speaker this morning, Sungwoo Lee from Korea University. I'm just going to say a few words about his biography, just so we kind of know where he's coming from. So he did his bachelor degree in chemical engineering at Sogang University, and then he did his master's and PhD at KAIST University in the Department of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering. And then from 2012 to 2014, he did a postdoc at Harvard in the group of William Shi. And then he came back to Korea to be an assistant professor, first at SKKU and then at Korea University in 2019 for a year before he was promoted to associate professor at Korea University. And he's in a joint program between KU and KIST, the Department of Integrative Energy Engineering. And so it's a great pleasure to have him here and to take time to tell us about his work. He had a really nice paper recently that we started talking about. And so he's going to tell us about that. And the title is Holographic Inscriptions for Optical Fourier Surfaces and Volumes. So please take it away.
Okay, thanks. Too generous, and it's a great honor to have this wonderful chance to share what I'm working on, the diffractive optical element. Now we call it optical Fourier surface. So we are making this diffractive optical element by using somewhat different method. We call holographic inscription. So to start, before going further, let me introduce. Let me give you the flavor how far Seoul is from the tree. So to give you that flavor, I took it from the Google Earth. And yeah, if you put some Korea University, and you can see how far from the tree. Okay, so even if it's pretty far from there, but as far as I know, there are some direct flight line between the tree and Seoul. So after COVID-19 is resolved, I hope we could have some chance to meet in person. Okay, so Korea University is one of the prestigious institute in Korea, and many people say that KU, Korea University, is the public school, but that's not true. It's private school and one of the prestigious institute in the Korea University. And our group in our group, about 20 people are working as a graduate student or postdoc, and this guy listed in here made a lot of contribution to what I will talk about the diffractive optical element. So maybe I hope in the near future one of these guys could be the postdoc member of the David group. Anyhow, this guy is quite extraordinarily prolific and quite creative. So with this guy, I hope we can have wonderful chance to collaborate. Wonderful chance for the collaboration with David Norris Group. So let me move on to the next slide. So I will not go through in detail about why we have to have optical Fourier surface or sinusoidal pattern rather than binary patterns. Maybe many of you in here quite familiar with the optical Fourier surface, right? So I will skip the detailed thing, but I would like to introduce why we have to have the optical Fourier surface with assistance of the numerical simulation result, as like here. So this corresponds to the sinusoidal surface relief grating. As you can see here, the DC component. This component corresponds to the transmission, right? Transmission. So what you can see here is the transmission of sinusoidal surface relief grating could be much lower as compared to that of binary, or we call it digitated pattern. Okay, so this in turn implies that diffraction efficiency of sinusoidal or wavy surface could be much better than that of the binary pattern. Okay. Yeah, so this took at near field image was going to happen when light meet the grating. So this area corresponds to the diffractive grating, and now the light is illuminated from top to bottom. And what you can see here is that more diffraction can be induced in the optical free surface rather than digitated binary counterpart. Okay, so yeah, so another thing I would like to introduce is that many biological creatures also have the diffractive optical element. Little star, firefly, fluoropetal, or silver ant, all these guys have quite beautiful diffractive optical element. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that all these guys have the sinusoidally or wavy surface rather than binary pattern. Okay. And also, before going further, let me introduce our representative example of the diffractive optical element, optical free surface. So here is the SEM image. It's viewed prospectively, and if you look at it more closely, you can see that the profile of our diffractive optical element has the sinusoidally modulated surface rather than digitated pattern. So here pattern has the 2 micrometer in period and 500 nanometer in height. Okay, and let me introduce another my favorite of our outcome. So we can also make more complex the optical Fourier surface. Here is the quasi-crystalline surface. So if you look more closely, you can see that four-fold symmetric quasi-crystalline optical Fourier surface, and here is the length scale about the 50 micrometers. So anywhere you can see, you can confirm the high uniformity of the large area, right? All this, the making this surface can be done without any kind of lithography etching. So conventionally, lithography depending on the photo cross-linking or photo seasoning of polymeric chain. Through that, we can increase the solvent solubility contrast, right? Through that, we can etch out selectively. So that's the general way to have the fabricate patterned surface, right? We don't depend on the kind of lithography etching. We just depending on the polymeric movement, directional polymeric movement. So that's the reason why I call it our process is based on non-etching process, which can significantly reduce the required processing time. So that's the reason why we can obtain this kind of beautiful OFS within about the 10 minutes for about the centimeter square scale. Okay. So let me introduce how we can make such OFS within relatively fast way. So our method basically depending on this method we call directional photofluidization lithography. So I'm not quite sure how many people have heard about that method. So let me introduce what's that thing. So this method is firstly suggested in 2010 when I was the PhD student in KAIST, and that method depending on the polymeric reconfiguration. So we can make some beautiful pattern by using polymeric reconfiguration, and such polymeric reconfiguration can be induced and controlled by light illumination. Okay, so simply we can say that there are some material, soft material, that's actually polymer or supramolecule, and when they are illuminated with the light, it becomes soft and fluidized. Okay, so let me introduce more about it. So at the macroscopic scale, we can mold the clay into any desired shape by our hand, right? So according to the shaping, we can encode a specific functionality. Okay, the shape define the functionality. Similar thing can be achieved with this specific material. That's actually azobenzene, this specific molecule incorporated material. So this azobenzene photochromic molecule can be incorporated into polymer or supramolecule, And when they are illuminated with light, this adsorbent molecule can undergo this kind of photoisomerization. Okay, this kind of photoisomerization can make the overall material quite soft and fluidized. So let me give you some example. Here is the cylindrical post, and here is has the 2 micrometer in height and also 2 micrometer in width. And when they are illuminated with light, this cylindrical post can be reconfigured into the specific shape. Okay. That process can be done just by light illumination, without any kind of the temperature increasement, etc. Okay. So our method basically based on this property. So let me further detail several downstream features of this material. Okay, so first, this material reconfiguration or shape reconfiguration can be achieved at room temperature. It's quite quite interesting because this polymer has the glass transition temperature about 100 Celsius degree. What that means that this polymer is quite rigid at the room temperature. It's much like the PMMA or PS. Okay, but when they are illuminated with the light, it becomes soft and fluidized. So let me give you some example. Here is the, let's say we're gonna have the thin polymeric film, and I will going to scratch it out by using laser. So we can see some cast face of this polymeric film, and when we illuminate it with the light, what you can see here is that this crack becomes fully filled through the mass migration or fluidization. So that's the reason why I call it photofluidization. So let me repeat again. This process is fully done at room temperature, about the 225 Celsius degree, far below the glass transition temperature of this material. So that's the reason why I sometimes call it a summer photofluidization. Okay, their behavior is like this. When they are illuminated with light, the surface becomes quite smooth. Okay. So let me start again here. It has the cracked polymeric film with significant line edge roughness, right? And this significant line edge roughness becomes significantly reduced just by illumination of light. Okay, all this process is carried out at the room temperature. Let me repeat again. Okay. So that's the reason why I call this process a fluidization. Okay, it's much like the fluid. Okay, all the fluid or droplet tend to reduce their surface energy through smoothing the surface, right? Let me go further. Also, this fluidic behavior can be highly controlled in three-dimensional way, because this fluidic behavior can be induced exactly where light is illuminated. Okay, so basically ozone material is highly light absorbing material, so incoming light can be absorbed at the surface of the film or structure. So much like the skin depth in plasmonic film, the penetratable thickness within the material can be highly limited from the surface. Okay, so we can also call it skin depth. So let's say here is our initial pattern. It has the micro post retaining 10 micrometer in height and also 10 micrometer in width. When they are illuminated with light, just top surface can be selectively melted and fluidized, while this bottom area remained almost intact, because light cannot penetrate at the bottom of this micropost. How about what's going to happen when they are treated with relatively high temperature, for example, beyond the glass transition temperature? what you can see here is that they are fluidized overall. They are isotropically fluidized, right? So what I want to say here is that this reconfiguration can be highly controlled in three-dimensional ways. So this pattern is already given to you just now. So 2 micrometer in height and 2 micrometer in width. When they are illuminated with circularly polarized light, just top surface can be reconfigured like this. So eventually it becomes mushroom-shaped post from this cylindrical shaped post. Okay. So by using this kind of daunting feature, we can make the optical free surface in a relatively versatile and fast way. So let me give you more details about it. So first, I will show how this pristine pattern can be reconfigured by using the one beam light illumination. Okay, here is our starting point. Is cylindrical hole array, and this cylindrical hole array is also fully made out of the azo material. Okay, when they are illuminated with the single beam or one beam with circular polarization, this cylindrical post becomes this kind of conical hole. Okay, because they are circularly fluidized. What that means that this move like this. Okay, so through that, this cylindrically shaped hole becomes this kind of this conical shaped one. Okay, so binary pattern can be transformed into curvilinear shape. Okay. How about the illumination of interference pattern rather than single one beam illumination? Okay, so interference pattern can be broadly categorized into two things. One is the intensity interference pattern. The other one is the polarization interference patterns. So simply we call it IIP and PIP, and IIP can be assessed by mixing of same polarized beam. For example, mixing of P-pole and P-pole, or mixing of S-pole and S-pole, and mixing of light, circularly polarized light, RCP and RCP, right? So through that, in the IIP, light intensity can be gradually or sinusoidally modulated while each polarization remained intact. How about the PIP, polarization interference pattern? This PIP can be assessed by mixing of differently polarized light. Okay, for example, mixing of S-pole and P-pole, or mixing of LCP and RCP. So along the grating vector, you can see that intensity is constant, whereas the polarization is gradually or sinusoidally modulated. Okay, we're gonna use this kind of two interference pattern in the rest of my talk. And actually, when we illuminated azopolymeric thin film, here is PDR1M is the Q name of our azo material. And when they are illuminated with IIP, resulting from the mixing of P-pole and P-pole, what you can see here is that the intensity is sinusoidally modulated, right? Here, white arrow indicate the polarization distribution. Okay. How about the illumination of PIP? Assessed, for example, assessed by mixing of LCP and RCP. What you can see here is the intensity at the top surface of the film is relatively constant, right? Where is the polarization here is sinusoidally modulated. Okay. So previously, what I told you is like this: the fluidization behavior, fluidization can occur in a direction exactly same with the light polarization. Okay. Also, the degree of polarization, degree of photofluidization also can be proportional to the light intensity. Okay, so illumination of both PIP and IIP in the azo material allow us to have the sinusoidally modulated surface profile. Okay, as a result of the directional photofluidization. Okay, so here's our optical setup for mixing of two beam patterns. So just by illumination of the IIP or PIP, this initially flat film is going to be transformed into this kind of sinusoidally modulated grading. Okay. And also, I would like to emphasize that this is fully depending on the mass migration, directional mass migration or directional photofluidization, not depending on the chemical etching or cross-linking, etc. So this process is quite simple, versatile, and light illumination is enough to have this kind of pattern transformation. Also, the other advantage you can take over from this process is that this pattern can be reversibly transformed. Because we are depending on the mass migration rather than irreversible cross-linking or polymeric scissoring, etc. So after obtaining this kind of one-dimensional optical Fourier surface (OFS), and also we can confirm that high uniformity of the large area. So within the area where light is illuminated, same polymeric movement, mass migration can be induced. Okay, so we can confirm the high uniformity of the large area. Okay, also as expected, the Fourier spectrum, which exactly corresponds to the Fourier potential, can be accessible. Okay. And also, as I told you just now, this pattern can be transformed because we are depending on the reversible mass migration rather than irreversible cross-linking, chemical etching, etc. So after obtaining 1D pattern like this, we can rotate the sample, for example, by 90 degree or 60 degree, and then we can inscribe same interference pattern. So after that, we can obtain two-dimensional OFS. Here is the tetragonal lattice, and here is the hexagonal lattice. Depending on the rotation angle in the second step, we can precisely control the lattice geometry as well. And after second illumination, we can still see that two-dimensional OFS profile here, sinusoidal profile along the x and y axis can be still preserved. Okay. We can go further. For example, just now we discussed about that the mixing of the 1D OFS, 1D Fourier potential with the same period but different grading vector. We can have this kind of two-dimensional OFS. So this is the mixing of two 1D FX. But mixing of at least 4 FX with different grading vector, we can also have this kind of the quasi-crystalline film. And if we can inscribe this kind of the 1D interference pattern at least 4 times, what that means that we are going to rotate the sample by the 45 degree at each step. We can have this kind of quasi-crystalline sample. So according to the number of inscription, we can also precisely control the fold of this quasi-crystalline film. Also, we can inscribe the 1D interference pattern with same grading vector but different period. We can also mix in such a way, so we can have more complex OFS. Also, we can obtain this kind of pattern by mixing of multiple 1D effect, 1D interference pattern with same period but different grading vector. Okay, so we can mix this 1D interference pattern unlimited time. Okay, we can repeat because we are fully depending on the mass migration, reversible mass migration rather than irreversible chemical reaction. So actually, let me introduce the representative example toward this end, and here's the 4-fold symmetric quasi-crystalline optical Fourier surface. Please see the scale far here. And also we can confirm the high uniformity of the large area. That's actually about the centimeter square scaled area. And also I need to emphasize here is that all the required time to have this kind of complicated pattern is about the 10 minutes with about the few tens milliwatt per centimeter square light intensity. Also we can have more complicated one by using the method I just now introduced, mixing of multiple 1D interference pattern. And also what I frequently ask is that how about the transparency of the material, because as I told you before, this ozone material is highly light absorbing material. What that means that it's not so transparent. It tends to absorb a lot of light, a lot of visible light. So the sample is like this, okay? Is appeared quite orange color because the below the 600 nanometer wavelengths, this light can be highly absorbed by this ozone material. That's the reason why it looks like the orange color. But it can be easily more replicated with the optically transparent material like the PDMS. Okay, I believe that many of you in here is quite familiar with what's the PDMS, right? And also replication process is quite simple. Just by pouring the precursor of PDMS, that's actually liquid, directly onto the patterned surface of the ozone material and cure it, filled up, that's enough to have this kind of optically transparent OFS over the large area. So all the required time for this is generally less than 1 hour. Okay. So here is the bright field optical microscope image of OFS replicated with the PDMS. It's quite uniform and quite beautiful. And yeah, so as a last part of my talk, I would like to introduce several examples what we can do with this method, which would be difficult to achieve with other methods. Okay, so our method is fully depending on the light illumination without any kind of the chemical etching, etc. So OFS can be conformably inscribed onto the curved surface, much like this one. Okay, here is the curved surface. It's obtained by microfluidic synthesis method. Actually, that's a microsphere. And then we are illuminated with interference pattern directly onto that. And what you can see here is that OFS is conformally coated even onto the curved surface. And as with the case of the flat film, this quasi-crystalline OFS also can be conformably coated even onto the curved surface. Okay. And also we can make the pristine pattern much like this one. Curvilinear surface can be firstly patterned by using the interfacial fluidic assembly method, and then this curved surface also can be conformably inscribed with the OFS, much like this, just by illumination of the interference pattern. And what you can see here is that such multi-scale OFS can be better than single-scaled curved surface or flat surface in terms of outcoupling of LED device. At the time, we implemented this pattern onto the surface of OLED device, cover glass of OLED device, and what we confirm at the time is that this multi-scale OFS allows to have much higher coupling efficiency of LED compared with the other competing counterpart. This flat surface and simple 1D curved surface. And let's compare between the natural OFS and artificial R1. Okay, so flowering petal have the OFS in their surface, but that's not single scale. That's actually multi-scale. So this large scale groove, they first have this kind of large scale groove, and onto the surface they can form this kind of OFS. Okay? Similar thing can be accessible with our method, holographic inscription onto the curved surface. Also, I would like to emphasize that this OFS can be transformed or updatable because they can be erasable, because they are fully depending on the reversible mass migration rather than irreversible photocross linking. So let me give you some example. Here is the micro post that already given to you before, and then I'm going to illuminate this pristine pattern with PIP, accessible by mixing of LCP and RCP. And after that, you can see that this OFS, one-dimensional OFS, is conformally coated onto the surface of this pristine pattern, right? Okay. And then we can illuminate this pattern with single beam. Here, single beam have the circular polarized light, and the illumination direction will be the backward. Okay. What that means is that this OFS inscribed on the residual layer can be selectively erased, because ozone material tend to move along the polarization of incoming light. Okay, so illumination of a single beam with circular polarized light allows to erase the recorded OFS. But this fluidization behavior can be controlled in three-dimensional way, right? So light cannot penetrate through this. That's the reason why the OFS at the top of micropost remained intact. And then we can inscribe another OFS at the residual layer by illumination of PIP at backward direction. Okay? So this OFS made out of the ozone material can be erased and re-inscribed with different OFS. Also, recently we figured out that we don't need to erase the pristine pattern to have another OFS, to inscribe another OFS. So after inscribe the first OFS like this, and then you can rotate the sample and illuminate interference pattern, which can be screened by photomask. So what that means that this pristine OFS can be selectively reconfigured with different OFS. For example, here is the initial OFS, and here is the reconfigured OFS. We don't need to do some sort of erasing process towards this end. So we can seamlessly integrate the different OFS, much like this one. Okay. And also we can seamlessly integrate the multiple OFS with the same grading vector but different period. Okay, this integration was carried out by using the same method what I told you just now. And also we can inscribe the more complex OFS. So for example, randomness controlled OFS. So let me start with this flat film made out of the ozone material, and when we illuminated the light with single beam rather than interfered beam, this surface becomes rough like this. Because this, when the ozone material is illuminated with light, this ozone molecule tend to be aligned perpendicular to the light polarization. So ozone material can experience some sort of pi stacking. So azochromophore tend to be aggregated. So as a result, we can have this kind of randomly rough texture, and then we can inscribe the IIP or PIP onto this kind of rough surface. So resulting OFS can have the randomness, well controlled randomness. So as you can see here is there, well, we can still see some one-dimensional OFS, but there are some randomness. Okay. The interesting is like this. when we have this kind of randomly controlled OFS, we can simultaneously induce the diffractive and diffusional light scattering. Okay, so particularly at here and here, we can see there's some diffusional light scattering as well as the diffractional light scattering. And also interestingly, this natural OFS accessible by flowering pattern also have the randomness controlled OFS. Okay. So if you look at more closely, it's not perfectly sinusoidal. There are some irregularity or there are some disorder, right? So actually, flowering pattern can scatter the light in a diffractive and diffusional way. Okay. Same thing can be induced with our method. And also, we can inscribe the blazed OFS in a relatively simple way. So previously, I shared the result based on the normal illumination of interference pattern. Okay. And we can switch off to asymmetric illumination of the interference pattern like this. So we can induce the asymmetric photofluidic movement of polymer, and then we can obtain this blazed OFS, which would be difficult to achieve with other method. Also, lastly, I would like to switch up the gear to optical Fourier volume. Optical Fourier volume or volume grating is another important thing, particularly toward the AR and VR application. Okay, so as you already might familiar with this K-vector diagram, this momentum kicking can be happen here rather than here. So we can induce the unidirectional diffraction rather than bidirectional diffraction of the OFS, right? So it can act as a blank mirror, transparent blank mirror. If you look at this sample at here, it looks transparent, but when you look at this sample, we can see that some black diffraction. Yeah, so that's the reason why many people say that this volume grating can act as a transparent mirror. And we are also working on this kind of optical Fourier volume because some interference pattern, IIP here, illumination of IIP onto the photopolymer. This is not azo material. This is a photopolymer, right? So photopolymerization can be happen selectively in the bright region of IIP, and monomer going to be covalently linked and consumed selectively within the bright area of IIP. What they mean is that they're going to be concentration gradient across bright and dark region of IIP. So monomer can diffuse from dark to bright area, so there are some density gradient after illumination of the IIP onto photopolymer. So through that, we can transfer this optical Fourier potential to the photopolymer or volume grating. And at the normal, we can see it looks like transparent, but at the tilted view, we can see some specific diffractive color. So we can say that it can act as a blank mirror. But this depending on the irreversible chemical reaction. Okay, we can do similar thing by using the reversible isopolymeric alignment and movement. Okay, so as I introduced before, this azo material chromophore tend to be aligned perpendicular to the incident light because here's the azo chromophore. It has the long axis and short axis. The how many light going to be observed is defined by this rotation angle between polarization and long axis of molecule theta. Okay. So how many light going to be observed by azobenzene molecule here is constituted by like this fashion. So azobenzene going to azobenzene here, azobenzene chromophore can undergo photoisomerization here, trans to cis and trans cis and trans until they cannot observe the light anymore. when they becomes perpendicular to the incoming polarization, they cannot observe the light anymore. Okay, they repeat this kind of transit photoisomerization until they cannot observe light anymore. So that's the reason why this azochromophore can be aligned perpendicular to the incoming light polarization. So after light illumination, particularly by IIP, are this molecule going to be aligned selectively within the bright region of IIP? What that means that we can induce the birefringence of this material. Okay, through that we can reversibly inscribe the volume grating in the film, and also we can erase this volume grating by illumination of the circularly polarized one beam, or also we can increase the temperature beyond the glass tension temperature. Because through that we can erase the pre-recorded volume grating, and also we can reinscribe volume grating. Because through that also we can achieve updatable of optical Fourier volume as well. Okay, so let me conclude my talk. We are using the holographic inscription for obtaining the optical Fourier surface and optical Fourier volume. And the main advantage from this method could be the processing speed. Okay, so we can achieve the throughput like this. Okay, 10 to the 10 or 10 to the 12 micrometer square per hour. So generally our method, generally the several example what I shared today is based on the 1 centimeter square area pattern, and to assess that pattern, that area pattern with OFS, we illuminated IIP or PIP within about 10 minutes. Okay, that's enough to have this beautiful OFS. So processability can be dramatically increased if we use the holographic inscription. That's the key message I want to deliver this talk. And also, what kind of collaboration could be possible between us? So maybe many of you in here could be familiar with this paper published in last year by Facebook Reality Lab. They try to commercialize this AR or VR display. Okay, that's the key component, particularly for metaverse, right? That's the display. Metaverse need to be displayed, right? And they can be achieved through this kind of AR or VR device. And many companies like the Facebook, Google, and Microsoft trying to commercialize this kind of AR and VR display, and they heavily depending on the diffractive optical component or holographic optical component. Surface grating or volume grating is quite key component toward translation of this kind of AR and VR device into our daily life. They still depending on the lithography, right? The photolithography or nano imprint. That's the reason why this AR and VR is still not so well commercially amenable at the time. I'm trying to change this kind of trend. I'm trying to overcome this kind of intrinsic problem. But our method is the OFS or OFS fabricated by our method still have relatively low diffraction efficiency, about 20%, etc. So to translate into the practical device like such AR and VR glass, we have to increase this diffraction efficiency almost about the 100%. So toward this end, we have to translate this azopolymeric based OFS into the high index based counterpart like the TiO2 or silicon, etc. Silicon is not so transparent at the visual frequencies. Maybe the TiO2 could be good candidate toward this end. So we can collaborate towards this direction. Or recently I found out that your group uploaded archive paper making the OFS with the boron nitride, and as far as I know, boron nitride has relatively high reflective index, but still there are some loss at the visual frequency. Anyhow, this could be one possible direction we can collaborate. Also, we can. I'm quite open to discuss about the other possibility. Okay, thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to have any question or comment.